Welcome. We are going to have a deep dive into JavaScript. In this video, we will be going over the basics of JavaScript. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to look at is comments. So good thing about a comment is you can write things just to yourself that's going to be ignored by the editor, which they're not for the computer. These comments are for you or anyone else sitting down at the computer. So to execute a comment, what we're going to do, so we're going to run this thing here. Right, at the top here, we do // so 2 forward slashes, dunk, dunk. And then we put in our comment. So whatever the comment is, we put it in here. So that essentially is ignored by the computer, and that's for us to read or anyone else sitting down. So that's how you do one line. If you want to do multiple lines, it's a little bit different. So what you do there is / asterisk. Now you can see everything's grey here because it's blocked it all out. We need a finishing line here for this this process. So to do it, we do the opposite. We do asterisk /. And it's now, you can see down here, the computer likes this, that's why it's colourful. It's going to read that, but it's going to ignore all this because we've blocked it out. Which gets onto another thing why comments are handy. Not only is it for you to make notes of what you're doing, or anyone sitting down at your code, they can also sort of figure out what you're doing. But you can use comments to block out whole sections of code. So if you've got a long thing of code and you're having problems with it, and you're trying to isolate where's the problem coming from, the good thing about comments is you can isolate and cut out sections of code to let the computer ignore it, so you can sort of fine tune and figure out what's going on. So that's how you do comments. So we're going to get rid of that there now. The next thing we're going to look at is how to print to the console. So here's the console here. We've got a few phrases printed down here. How did we do that? We do that with console log. So console.log parentheses, open and close parentheses. And inside those parentheses is what we write, whatever we're going to log. So let's do a new one. So console log, open and close parentheses. Now if we run that, nothing's going to happen. It's going to leave a gap between there. It's just a gap there. There's nothing happening because we haven't put anything to log. There's different types of data you can put in there. You can put in a string, which is what you see above in the yellow. A string is essentially words and characters, and they sit inside commas. So you could either do the double commas, or you can do the single commas, essentially. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter, but they go inside those little commas there. So that's how you would do strings, which are essentially words, phrases, all that kind of stuff. Another data type that we can enter is numbers. Numbers are usually divided into two categories. An integer, which is a round number, so 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, they're integers. The other one is float, which is a decimal point. So a number with a decimal point is called a float. So they're the two types of number data types you can enter. And lastly, you can there's many other ones, but the basic ones are those. And the last one to look at the moment is Boolean. Is a Boolean, which is sort of on-off switch. So it's true or false, yes or no, 1 or 0. It's a Boolean data type. So for example, true is a Boolean, so you can enter that. Now, if I console log that, it will print true. It's printing true there, which is the Boolean here that it's printing up there. However, to do a string, you need the commas. So we can run that. Now it says true again, but it's actually doing it as a string this time. So we can also add to it true to be, oops, let's just do a fresh new string. The cat's out on the hat. So the cat sat on the hat, which is inside of those commas. So if we do that, it runs the cat sat on the hat. So console log is how you print to the console. You can also do a number, so we could just, with a number, you don't do the commas, it's just the number. So for example, 8, so 8 is printed. We can do the float, 8.9. So if we run that, 8.9, the float 8.9 is printed. So that's how you log things to the console. You do console.log, open and close brackets. Okay, next we're going to look at arithmetic operators. So this is the math. This is the plus, minus, divide, times, and remainder, which is another one that is there. So let's show you how to do that basically. So let's do 8 plus 8. So to do a plus, you just use a plus symbol. So that'll console log 8 plus 8, which equals 16. You can see that up here. I'm just going to comment out these ones, these two sections, so you can see it a little bit better. So we're doing forward slash, forward slash that guy, and then, what's it called again? Yeah, that one. Asterisk. And then we'll do it up here as well. So it's forward slash asterisk, and then asterisk forward slash. So they're blocked out now, they're ignored. So now it's just the number 16, there we go. So we can isolate what we're doing here. Okay, so to do minus, again, it's just simply minus. So console log 8 minus 8, run that, it's 0. Divided by is a forward slash. So let's run 8 divided by 8 equals 1. To do times, it's actually the asterisk again, that good old asterisk. That's how we do times, multiplication. 8 times 8 equals 64. The last one we're going to look at is remainder, which is the percentage symbol. So it's printed 0. Now what remainder does is it divides these two numbers together and gives us whatever's left over. So 8 divided by 8 goes into itself once. There's nothing left over. However, if you go 10 divided by 3, now 10 divided by 3 is 3 with 1 left over. So that's what it does. It gives you the 1 left over. That's what it, you won't necessarily use this one as much, but that's what that remainder character does. So that's how to do arithmetic operators. Next, we will look at string concatenation. So you can actually add strings together inside that little console there. So we could go hello in the little brackets there. We do plus, and then we do world. Now, when we run that, you can see it prints hello world. Now, there's no gap there. So how do we get a gap there? There's a few ways. You can either literally put it in after hello. You can put it in before world inside the brackets, like that. Or you can actually add a separate one altogether. So plus brackets, space, plus world. So now we run that, same thing happens. So it's doing hello plus the space plus world. So that's how you do concatenation. You can add strings together. Next, we will look at properties. So properties, when you type data, the data comes with its own properties that you can't see, but you can retrieve. So let's just say we console logged the string hello world in one string. How many characters are there in there? There's HELLO space WORLD. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 characters in there. That is one of the properties inside that string, which we can retrieve. The way you retrieve a property is with the dot operator. So the dot, and in this case it'll be length. Now if we run that, it actually prints 11, which is the amount of characters inside that string. It's printing the length of that string. So that's what we're doing there. So that's how properties work. There's different properties, but that's just an example of one of the properties. Next, we can look at method. The way you execute a method is similar. You've got the dot operator, you write the method, but then you've got open and close brackets. One example of a method is the uppercase method. So if we take that length out there now again, and just console log hello world, you can see there's two capitals there, H and W, but we can change those to all capitals by doing the to uppercase method. So we do the dot operator, we do to uppercase, open and close brackets. Now, just to also look there, we use camel case. So camel case is used a lot in JavaScript. The second and third and fourth, so on, everything except for the first word has a capital before each word. So it sort of breaks the words up. With the exception of the first word, there's no capital there. So when we run that, it prints hello world all in capitals. So let's look at one more method. So if we get rid of that, now this time we're going to sort of ruin it. Let's put some space in there, lots of space. Save and run. So now you can see it's in the middle here. It's not to the left of the screen because we've got lots of space. So there's lots of space there. We can eliminate that. So we go to the end of the string there, do the dot, trim, open and close brackets. Run that, and it gets rid of the space. It trims the space out for us. So that's an example of methods. So again, methods, the way you execute a method is the dot operator, the name of the method, and then the open and close brackets. Okay, next we're going to look in built-in objects. So you can build objects, but JavaScript has some built-in objects. One of those, let's just eliminate this console log for now. One of those is the math object. Now, to execute a built-in object, you use a capital this time. So capital M-A-T-H, math. And then you run it with a method. In this case, we'll do random. And then you've got the open and close brackets. So what that will do, when we run it, nothing will print. However, that is actually doing something. What it is doing is it's choosing a random number under 1. So a random number less than 1. And we can show you this by console logging it. So let's go back to the console log. And then we'll put that inside the console log brackets. And then we'll console log it. So if we run it, you can see 0.9358807. Do it again, it gives us a different one, 86290. It's 0 point something. It's always 0 point something because what that does is it gives us a random number less than 1. We can make it bigger. We can make that give us a number between sort of 1 and 10, or 1 and whatever you like, by multiplying it. So after the parentheses, between those two here, you do times, which is the asterisk, and then whatever you want, say for example 10. Now we run it, and it's giving us, again, a float, so it's a decimal, because this gives us a number less than 1, it's always going to be a decimal, but we can get random decimals that's like under 10, so 8.144 blah blah blah, 0.422, 1.436, 4.644. It's always going to be under 10, and it's always going to be a decimal. We can use another built-in object to round this away from a decimal, make it a round number. So we do that by wrapping this guy with another another, let's get rid of the console just to make sense of it a little bit more. We'll do it step by step. Slower, we'll go slowly. So math.random times 10. As we know, that's going to give us a number between 1 and 10. Under 10. So it's going to give us a random number 1 or 10, and it's going to be definitely going to be a decimal place because this part gives us a number under 1. So it's never going to be a full number, an integer. But we can change it to an integer. We do another math object. This time, the method we add to it is ceiling. So what that does is it rounds the number up. And we need the open and close brackets, and the open and close brackets will wrap all this up inside there. So you can see there, you can see that our first part here, the random number generator, as we could call it, is now wrapped inside this object here. So that's now going to, when we run it, it won't print anything, but that's going to give us now a rounded number between 1 and 10. So now let's console log it so we can have a good look at what's going on. So there's, whoops, let's get that capital M back there. Again, when you use built-in objects, to execute it, the first letter is capital, which is a little bit different to how we perform a lot of other things. So just bear that in mind. Now we run this, look, it's going to give us a number between 1 and 10, a random number between 1 and 10. Look at that, it rounds upwards. So we can get 10 as well because it's rounding upwards. The math ceiling, which is capital M-A-T-H dot C-E-I-L. So it's short for ceiling, maths.ceil. That's essentially what it is. Maths.ceil rounds up. You can round down with math.floor. So we can have math.floor. So again, it's a property where we're wrapping all this up, this number generator, we're wrapping it in math.floor, which rounds it down. So if we run that, we'll get a random number under 10. That's always a random number under 10 because it's rounding down. So it's a random number under 10. So that's an example of the built-in object. There are also other objects. There's the number object. So what that does is just like math, we do number with the capital N. So number, and we're going to run a method, which is a question actually, is integer. Let's spell it right, there we go. Is integer, open and close brackets. And we're going to put that little 10 there, we're going to put it inside those brackets. So now it's going to console log this built-in object, which is a number object. And it's running this method here, which is a question, is integer. And whatever's inside these brackets, that's what we're talking about. So as you can see, this camel case is integer here, is asking whether or not what's inside these brackets, is it an integer or not? So an integer is a whole number. 10 is a whole number. When we run this, effectively it should print to the console true. So let's run it. And there we have it, it's true because this is an integer. Let's change this integer into a string. So there you go, now we've got some bit of English there, some words inside the brackets there, so now it's not an integer. So now when we run it, it actually runs as false. So that's what we call built-in objects. Okay, so we're going to leave it there. Next time we're going to look at variables, but this should get you started on the basics, and we'll see you next time.